Good day, and I hope you're doing really well as you're watching this video today. My name is Tracy Brown. I'm a somatic nutrition therapist and a tuned eating specialist. And I'm wondering if you have this question: how in the world can I manage my health condition and just eat whatever I want? That's a question that, after I talk a little bit about the eat foods with permission kind of part of the intuitive eating process, people get concerned legitimately that they won't be able to manage a health condition. So let's settle in and talk about that today. And I am back from my little kind of family, quickie weekend spring break vacation. And so obviously back to regular live videos if you haven't noticed. And I hope you enjoyed all of the kind of past year's videos that I've talked about health and intuitive eating. So if you haven't watched those, I actually published in the last 3 days, I think 3 days, probably at least 4 to 6 videos. So I hope that you enjoyed those and kind of got you a little ready for today. So, and you're welcome to ask any questions as I do the video. So the bottom line is, I think some of the confusion really does come from the fact that when you think about intuitive eating, it is a model of, it's a different model. Instead of a model of like follow a plan and here's the right way to eat, it's a model of body trust. Now, the thing is that sometimes our bodies don't always, well, basically maybe we're more sensitive. And that's not necessarily something you did. It's just the way life is. I mean, we aren't going to have the same body structure and composition and functioning since like the day we were born. That's just how it is. And I know that's not the easiest thing to accept. That we kind of have this idea that if I eat a certain way, I'll be the same level of health forever. And then just one day I'll be 100 and I'll go to sleep. And for some people that actually does happen, but I don't think it's the majority. And even if somebody tried to eat quote unquote perfectly, that person may not live to 100. And so I think this idea of trying to have this perfect diet to never be less well, it's a little bit like diet culture. And it's almost like wellness culture, that if we eat perfectly, and food is always medicine, and if we just eat right, we'll never have a sickness. And that's not actually how it works, is that we do have predispositions to things, and we live this messy thing called life where things are going to happen and we're going to get extremely stressed out. And our body is going to be surviving at some periods. And then, that can put some wear and tear on the body. And therefore, sometimes we become insulin resistant, or our bones aren't as strong, or our liver or our hormones are doing certain things. And then we might need some science-based, it's called medical nutrition therapy, to help the body in that condition. And so today, I'm not going to go like through maybe the hundreds of different conditions people watching might have, but I want to start with like what everybody could relate to. Is that first, do your best not to use Dr. Google. Most people can at least get access to one session with a licensed registered dietitian to look at that health condition and what is like the science-based information about that. Now, I know that not all dietitians are the same, but what I want to encourage you is that try not to use Dr. Google, because there's some truth in there and then there's some inflation in there. And it's really important to recognize, and just say off the bat, that if you can get access, whether it's through insurance, whether it's even you just save up your pennies for one session to really understand, here's the evidence base and here's what it says. And this is including all kinds of other factors for your specific condition. And by all means, try to find somebody who specializes in that too. If you have, diabetes, maybe you're not going to work with a sports dietitian. If you are, really try to find yourself with a specialist as well. So just putting that out there. Is that, let's say, for example, you have some insulin resistance, and that would cover a lot of conditions like diabetes, PCOS, those kind of things. The evidence isn't there that you have to eat zero carbs or eat a very low carb diet. In fact, that's probably going to stress out your body more because, again, we are trying to come to a place of what does my particular body need? And so that might mean that you discover through some experimentation that you do better with more carbs as the day goes on and more protein in the morning. It could be opposite for you. You might be a person that needs a certain mix of protein, carbs, and fat at each of your meals, for example. And that's super duper 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 gentle nutrition therapy for, let's say, insulin resistance. And I'm just going to speak to that real quick. But if you hear this and it already makes you feel like that's diety, then we really need to be working on your relationship with food well before we make any food changes. And that's the kind of dietitian I am, is that like, let's work at the things that we can do that have evidence-based to actually improve this situation without it causing harm. So that will mean, okay, I'm finding that it's too difficult right now to make major food changes, but here's some things I can add in, like fiber, like some supplements that I can access that actually have, again, some evidence-based that are helpful. And again, we have to experiment with those and whatever amounts, because sometimes the amounts that are recommended, we need more or less of them, depending on your particular body. Could mean that really all we're working on is nervous system regulation and sleep. And that improves your condition even more than you need to change a bunch of food. So it's really, really important to look at the bigger picture of your life, which is my next and most favorite point about health and nutrition, is that if you ever get a chance to do some Googling on the factors that impact weight, we have research so far that says there's 108 different variables that impact a person's weight that we know of and that are proven, which means that like you could be eating a high antioxidant diet, but if you are under chronic stress and you don't sleep enough, you still might feel terrible. You still might not have energy. You might be actually eating enough food. And maybe it's not about that you're eating the wrong foods or not enough food even. Maybe it's more like, I've been really burnt out and stressed out for like 20 years. And what I really need is to figure out a way to reconfigure my schedule for some more time and rest and sleep. And so when I work with people, I'm really looking at always first what's happening in the nervous system that's driving lots of fight or flight, because that's incredibly exhausting to the body, and work with that, and gut health and sleep. And then, if food changes can be made that are additive and not feeling like another incredibly hard thing to do, then we'll do so. If it's something very, very obvious that you're eating, that's clearly, not an allergy where it's going to cause you to go to the emergency room, but something that's like kind of questionable, does it have to be perfection? So let's say that you recognize dairy is not your friend. Okay, but doesn't mean you cannot never eat dairy. Does it mean like maybe I need to start off with one less serving a day and see if that triggering and helps with my symptoms? People often get the all or nothing thing, and that's actually very common in a lot of the current way that integrative nutrition treats people, is like you have to eat this, you can't eat that, and it's just causing a whole nother plethora of people who don't trust food and don't trust their bodies, versus, if we're really looking for root causes here, is it really the yogurt, or is it fact that, maybe being chronically stressed out and not eating enough is damaging my microvilli, and I really just need to focus on eating a bigger variety of food and eating at peace at my meals, even if it is dairy. So those are the things I want you to be thinking about in terms of like actual helping your health conditions. So excuse me. So does anybody have any questions? I know there's a lot of people live here on this. I would love to answer some questions if I can. Just a side note here that I can't answer individual medical nutrition questions. You would need to be a client of mine to do that here. And if you're a client of mine, we're probably not doing that online, but I would be happy to do a consult with you. But or refer you to a more appropriate person than me if that's the case, because I am not let's say, I'm trying to think of something. I'm really good with adrenal stuff and hormone stuff and gut health stuff and all that. But I'm not an expert in, let's say, diabetes. All right, so I have a question here and I'm going to answer. You have random pain in your body, often your back and feet. Yeah, so Amy, I think you're actually speaking to what I'm talking about today, is that sometimes we do have a medical restriction. If you are on dialysis, let's say, I used to do that. So it's like, I would recommend eating less high potassium foods, let's say, or high phosphorus foods, and we would go through what those are, how we can make substitutions, and we were really just doing a lot of relationship with food grieving work around what your body can and can't tolerate. You're curious about how you see this. How does this fit in dangerous diet restriction mentality? Well, it's really one of those things. If you know, for example, that if you're going to do some experimentation with corn restriction, for example, how would you know if or when you can't or you cannot? How many months do you give it? Most of the times when you're doing a restriction, you are doing like a 3-week no corn trial, like no corn, and then you start to add it back in and see what your symptoms are, and that will give you some idea. And then you do it again at some point. It doesn't mean it's a forever, never thing, I never have corn. It means, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a thing. Let's let maybe my body heal, my gut heal a little bit with this, and then try this again in 3 months or in 6 months and see how my body's doing. And it does feel different. If you're doing it for like, hey, I want to see if my symptoms improve, you should do that. Absolutely. Absolutely do it. And then you might retry again at some time. And the thing is, if it's starting to feel like a diety thing, you're hoping it helps you lose weight, those kind of things, you're on slippery slope. And it may be something you need to talk with a professional about to figure out how to navigate food restrictions that are for medical reasons and not replacing that, and still making sure that you have a nutrient replete, calorie replete diet, and not using any kind of medical reasons to not eat something as a way to try to lose weight. So Amy, I hope that helps you. And it's real that there's some people that just can't eat certain foods and their body's not tolerating them. But I don't ever consider it a never again issue. It's to be retested and retested as the months go by to see how your body's doing. And also looking at the other factors, like how is are we doing activities that strengthen our joints and our muscles and all those kind of things as well. So Amy, thank you for asking that question. All right, does anybody have any other thoughts about this? Again, I can't really go into any of my specific medical condition because I can't answer what you should do on a one little question and answer kind of thing. But just kind of remember that you'll know the difference. I really believe that people can really tune in and know the difference between, like, am I restricting for a symptom relief of something, and am I replacing? Am I hoping this restriction causes me to lose weight? If you're doing that for that reason, then you need to reconsider. And it may be that it's a kind of a mixed bag of like, well, I probably would feel better if I did this. And again, those types of restrictions always backfire. It always ends up in some deprivation-driven eating again. Well, so intuitive eating is just, again, it's a framework and a philosophy, but we have to use all frameworks. You put it on you as an individual person, which means that intuitive eating would not suggest that if you have a strawberry, let's say a strawberry allergy, and it gives you hives, intuitive eating wouldn't say, well, go ahead and eat strawberries because not eating strawberries would be a restriction. That's not how it works. It's like, honor your body. Honor your body, So if something isn't working and it's legitimate in terms of like a medical thing, then yeah, honor your body. And full permission to eat means eating what you fully want in a sense of, I'm restricting this because I think it's bad. Well, if you have an allergy to strawberries, it's not inherently bad. It just gives you hives, and it doesn't give me hives. So it's not inherently bad food. It just happens. That's what's going on with your body. And that's where the individuality of this process goes. And we tend to want to, we read something and think, we go into black and white thinking about it. It's not really about that. It's about, okay, here's some guidepost and a framework, and how does that fit with my individual body's history and needs? And that's how we go from there. Okay, I've got a question here, a comment here actually. It says, I totally live with the idea that if I get the food right, my health will be right. So many others have blamed my weight diet as a cause of my certain conditions. Of course, I do too. I must root out this subtle diet conditioning. Well, it's funny, you know, I hear you, that it's not that food doesn't matter, but it's like we don't often talk about all the other ways in which our bodies can get stressed out. We don't talk about being stuck in traffic to get to your job. Well, is that your fault? We don't talk about a boss that overpiles you with work that you can't possibly finish in a day. Well, I don't hear when you go to the doctor or the physician that they blame you for that. So what I'm trying to say is we got to look at the really big picture of what constitutes health. And it's how we go about everything that we have to be, everything that we have to navigate in our lives. There's like a positive, a neutral, or possibly a stressful impact on our health. It's not just what we put in our bodies. Does that matter? Of course it does over time. But there's also other things that go into play as well. And so it's really important that we recognize, how did we use food to survive certain situations that were just way more than the emotional and supportive resources we had. Yeah, so we gotta look at the whole picture. How is our sleep? If we sleep long hours, do we sleep well enough? You know, maybe some people need a sleep study. Maybe we need to get to the physical therapist. Maybe we need to have better lighting in our cubicles. Maybe simply getting out of the fluorescent lights to having like softer lights in our office would help us not get headaches, versus thinking, oh, I eat too much chocolate. Those kind of things. So and it's really important to look at all the ways in which things don't feel quite right, and what can we do to adjust that. So thank you, Amy. I'm glad that gave you some reassurance as well. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much who came live. Your questions have been awesome today. And I'm going to be live again on Friday. Actually quite early. I'm going to do like a very early bird kind of special video because of some stuff going on Friday with some meetings and all kind of stuff. But anyway, what I want to share with you is this. Take out a sheet of paper today and start to look at all the ways in which you're feeling like food must be the reason that I'm like struggling, or why my health is the way it is, right, wrong. Okay, well, maybe there's some truth to that. Like, well, can I blame that it took me, 2 years to try to have a baby on my intake? Yeah, because I was anorexic as a teenager and I was a binge eater in my 20s, and I had a lot of body chaos with my nutrition. So that probably didn't help. But there's no reason for me to have been in that situation to blame myself. It's like, yeah, I get it. I'm here because of the accumulation of all the things that my body went through. But luckily there was a good outcome. I have a very healthy kiddo now, like almost 9 years later. But it doesn't mean that we blame ourselves. We have to have compassion because, I didn't choose an eating disorder. Nobody watching this chose that. Nobody here chose like, oh, it's going to be so fun to go on a diet when I'm 10 years old, or I'm 16 years old, or I'm 25. Nobody chose to feel like scared to death about their health when the doctor said that like, you got to fix your weight, otherwise you're going to die. Nobody chose to have those experiences. And so now it's like, okay, we have a choice. Can I look at all the factors that impact my health, do the best I can with where my current relationship with food is, and keep on going forward? That's what we can do. So I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Be thinking about like your big picture health here. And if I can help anybody more personally, please email me or message me, and I'd be happy to do so. All right, thank you all so very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day. If this video was encouraging or enriching to you, please let your friends know about it, and I will talk to you on the next video. Bye for now.